formulating a research problem. This is the very important step for us. Overall, we need to have a research problem so that we can go further to collect our data and analyze our data, right? So a research problem is very, very important. It is the first step for us to think. So how? So here are the lesson goals for this week. Basically, we need to understand some basic issue. What is the research problem? The research problem and why it is so important. And the possible sources that we can identify research problems. So you don't just come out something out there and based on your imagination. No, everyone is doing some research related to his or her own experience or interests or educational background. So the GP topic you are going to identify for yourself will be very close to your life experience, basically. For example, when I was in the United States for my doctoral study, I focused on, because at that time I served in the military, so of course I would be very interested in knowing the US policy toward China, right? Because this is my job. So that is something I do. So I would not do something like the correlationship between literature and poems. I won't do that because I'm not this kind of person. I have no experience about enjoy this kind of life, right? So it must be something related to your interests and also possibly may have some relations to your future career prospects. What do you want to do? What is your plan for your future after you graduate? You must have some vague ideas so far, right? Although it is not clear, but you must have some ideas about what you are going to do in the future. So you have to correlate your interests, your experiences, your career prospect with the GP selection. It's very important. Don't do something that is very far away from your domain. Some people like politics. But if I ask you to do some cultural stuff, you will be feeling very bored, right? Overall, this is something you are going to work with your advisor for another year. So you must have some fun out of doing this. So be careful for this. So I will provide you the sources for research problems to help you to identify. And also, there are some considerations for you to select a research problem. Some considerations. Research problem must be there for you to take. Must be there so that you can exercise on it, you can carry out, you can implement all the different steps in your proposal. So research problems basically should be doable. If that is not doable, then there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do, okay? So after we understand the basic idea about research problems, then you will be able to learn the different steps of formulating a research problem. I will give you a very mechanical ways of dissect your research problem, help you to find out, and I will explain to you the details and the logical link why you want to jump from step 1 to step 2. What are the major considerations out there? And we also learn the formulation objectives and also establishing operational definitions. Okay, so let's just go through this context one by one. The first one is research problem. Let's take a look about research problem. Basically, if you want to have a very broad definition, it should be something, any question that you want answered, or assumption or assertion that you want to challenge or investigate. So basically, it is something, some question, some issue you want to tackle on, you want to spend a little bit of effort to collect data, and based on the data analysis to understand the nature of the issue. So broadly defined, this is research problem. let's put it a very simple research problem for you. After we finish this morning's class, you need to go for lunch, right? So you ask yourself, what kind of lunch I need to use? I need to consume, or I need to make it to satisfy myself for at noon after 3 hours of lecture, so torturable. So you will think about that, right? So what is the lunch I'm going to use? Is this a research question, research problem? Yes, it can be, if you believe that it is very important for you to solve. Because if you are hungry, some people, when they are hungry, they get angry, right? So it's critical for you to get a full belly before you embark another journey for the next lessons in the afternoon. So you will find out. So you have a problem, you have a research problem, very simple. Your purpose of the study is to identify the place that you can have a good meal for lunch. Is that right? So you will go to collect data. Where are you going to collect data? Of course, you will take out your cell phone to check whether it's anything on sale, a promotion, if you are a budget-minded person. Or maybe you just ask your friends, what do you want? So basically you are collecting data, right? So once you have a set of data, maybe those data may come from your friends, may come from your Google search, may come from you just in the morning you pass by some stores, some food stand, and you find that there's an advertisement there. It's very enticing, very attractive. So you collect all the data. And eventually you have to analyze the data, right? So you analyze the data, you decide, okay, in terms of my budget limit, I have only $60 to spend for the rest of the day. So I would like to spend $40 for that. And $40, how can I use my $40 for my lunch? Well, not too much. Maybe an egg, scrambled egg, a bowl of rice, and $20 of vegetables. That's very meager, right? But still, it is lunch based on the available resources you have. So basically, actually, we are doing research every day. Not only lunch, there are many other issues. Should I get this boy as my boyfriend? So you will consult a lot of issues, right? So you will observe his behavior. You will inquire around his friend to see, is he smoking? Oh, a smoker. Yuck. Then you will think about the issues about that. And finally, you need to make a decision. Right? Well, I don't like smoking gun, walking on the street. No. Or you don't care. You will make a decision based on your data analysis, right? Okay. So every time we try to find out answers for our questions or for our investigation, so that is something we are talking about, research problem. However, it's critical for you to understand one thing. Not all questions can be transformed into research problems. We have a lot of questions, right? But those questions, when we consider our resources, when we consider our technology level, techniques available for us, when we consider our knowledge level that we can master a certain subject, many questions cannot be studied. For example, all of us have hairs, right? Of course. But what is the exact number of the hairs in this classroom? I have no idea. There is no available technology can help us to identify, to count the exact number of hairs, right? Of course, knowing the result, knowing the answers of the exact number of hairs in this classroom is interesting. Of course, can satisfy our curiosity, right? But we cannot, because our ability, we do not have the technology to count all the hairs and all the hairs and coming out the exact number, correct number. So there are many other issues like this. Sometimes it is not something like this. It can be more complicated. For example, I am a professor I have a doctorate degree in political science, in international policy analysis. It seems so great. But if you ask me anything about calculus, I have no idea, because I forgot everything about calculus at all. Did you still remember? I did that in high school. I remember I was very good at that. But now, okay, D, sigma, and how about trigonometry, cosine, tangent, sine? Wow, my goodness. When I say these terms to you, you laughed, awkwardly laughed, because you forgot either. You forgot too, right? It's quite normal. Everyone has some sort of specializations out there. Everyone has. Not because I have a doctorate degree and I should be more knowledgeable than you. No, it's not the case. So, not all questions can be transferred to a research problem. Your resources are limited. Your knowledge cannot be all omnipotent, omniscient. Omniscient means that you know all things. You don't know everything, right? And also the technique required to tackle the specific questions sometimes is not available. Sometimes it's far beyond the scope of your knowledge. Then you cannot do. Okay? So sometimes some may be extremely difficult to study. When we say extremely difficult to study, we may consider about money, how much money you need to take, how much time you need to take, and what kind of efforts you need to do, what level of skills you need to master, and so on and so on, right? So that is a lot of things you need. So you have to look at yourself. Imagine this. How many resources you have when you embark your journey for your graduation paper? Let me count the time for you. The time, first, 1 year. Is that right? After learning this semester's research methodology, well, you are going to meet your advisor. Possibly on the 17th week of this semester, you will be assigned to one professor. And you will know, wow, who is my boss in the next 1 year. And you are counting your days, okay? Crossing your fingers. So, 1 year formally. And starting from next semester, you are going to use 1 semester's of time to compose, to write up your proposal. So that is 18 weeks, right? And during the summer times between your junior year and senior year, summer, 3 months, less than 3 months. Your responsibility during that time is go to collect data. So imagine this. If you try to interview people, how many interviewees you could have within the 3 months of time? How many interviewees you can interview? That way, give us a number.
Depends on the population you're going to have or your research.
Yeah, I know. That will depend on many other considerations, but I need you to give me a figure. How many interviewees you think you can contact and complete the interviews?
Around 40.
Huh?
Around 40.
40. My goodness. 10 is close to reality. Indeed. 10, 15, but 40 is a lot of work. You know, when you conduct an interview, you need to send out emails, right? Emails, you need to make phone call, you need to ask friends to ask you, the guy you want to interview, or you need to go to the office, knock on the professor's door to ask Daniel, I have an interview. I tried to interview some proper VIP in Taipei. Do you know him? I'm sorry, I don't. Then you knock another door, right? So you can imagine this. You need to prepare for contact the interview. You need a lot of time. Let's take a 10 minutes break and come back again. Okay, let's continue. Okay. So you have to keep in mind, although something you will be very interested in knowing some issue, but not all issues, not all questions can be explored, can be studied. So basically, it seems very easy to formulate a problem. Seems very easy. However, it requires you a considerable knowledge of both the subject area and research methodology. And this is a very important statement. That is, when you do your research, you need to equip yourself two sets of very important knowledge. The first one is your subject knowledge. You must, for example, if you want to do some LGBT study, then you can imagine this. If you want to identify for example, the equal employment opportunity for the LGBT in Taiwan, right? Don't you think that you need to study a lot, review a lot of literature about LGBT by yourself? Yes, you need to become an expert in this field. So this is the subject area you need to understand. And because you want to carry out your own research on this issue, on this specific study issue, then you need also equip yourself a set of knowledge for research methodology. So these are the two things you need to have. So in the future, you will understand this more deeply. For example, if you want to understand the interactions between Taiwan and China, and if you focus on the interaction in terms of trade interactions, so you need to take a lot of courses on international trade, and you need to understand why Taiwan businessmen want to move their factories there, and why they move their factory again to Southeast Asia. There are a lot of subject area knowledge you need to know first, in order for you to take care of this issue, right? And also, if you want to, for example, you want to study migration issue. There are some foreigners migrating into Taiwan and stay here. They are experiencing a lot of cultural shock. They have to adapt themselves into this new environment. And eventually, maybe they would like to set up their own families and find a job and settle here for good. So if you want to study this group of foreigners who migrate into Taiwan, then the theory of migration you need to understand. Cultural adaptation, cultural acculturations, and culture shock. All the issues related to this group of people you need to understand. So that you can claim yourself, okay, I want to study this. But the knowledge for subject area is not enough yet. You need to understand research methodology. So you know how to identify research problem, you know how to set up a research design, you need how to construct a valid research instrument. You know how to select a sample that is capable for you to measure, to collect data. And you know how to edit code and analyze the data, and you know how to give the meanings of your findings. There is a whole process of knowledge you need to equip yourself. The knowledge for research methodology is quite universal. It can be applied to many different kind of disciplines. However, in terms of your graduation project, your topic will be very unique to you only. Right? So the Department of International Affairs can teach you research methodologies, can offer courses for you to start your search for the graduation papers topic. But I assure you, the courses provided in the Department of International Affairs and anywhere else cannot provide you the specific knowledge for you to enhance your knowledge for your subject area. So you have to study by yourself, basically, okay? So this is very important. So next time, if you tell me, Daniel, I want to study something related to the, let's say, the development of wind industry in Taiwan. So if you want to do this, well, I would say, wow, that is interesting. But what I would advise you, before you claim you want to do this, you need to study by yourself a lot of articles and books related to the development of wind industry in Taiwan. Or otherwise, how can you do anything related to this topic? It will be very strange, right? And even let's put down to a very, very simple issue. For example, if you want to compare the operational models of, let's say, 7-Eleven or Family Mart or OK Mart, right? Very simple. They are convenience store. But even you want to do this, even you want to understand how their customers think about the operational model, don't you think that you need to understand, to learn a lot of idea about how those kind of convenience stores, they run their operation, their hiring process, their promotion strategy, their marketing strategy, and so on. Don't you think that you need to know this before you can claim you want to understand, you want to compare their marketing strategy? If you do not know anything about marketing strategy at large, then it will be very ridiculous for you to think, oh, I want to do something about, because you may think, well, everywhere is convenience store. So if I do something this, that will be easy catch. Not really, not really, because you need to understand the subject area knowledge. That's back to me. I say I always like to use the learning efficacy of your study here in the research methodology, right? But even I say so, I still need to master the knowledge for learning theory. There's a whole lot set of learning theories over there I need to understand. I have to train myself to become an expert in learning theory, classroom management, teaching preparation, the way to deliver lectures, so that it's come out a whole package of learning. Learning is one thing, but the efficacy of learning is another. Is that right? So I need to continue to understand how can I evaluate whether you are learning well or not learning well. How can I evaluate your learning? And so on. There are so many issues out there. Now overall, I need to educate myself through my own study. I cannot learn this from anything else, right? So I can only go into literature to find out articles, train myself. Oh, learning efficacy. This is the whole scope of knowledge I need to understand. So I have this, and equipped and all combined with my knowledge about the research methodology. Then I can do learning efficacy of my students in this classroom. So overall, whenever you say you want to conduct some kind of study issue, you have to ask yourself, are you prepared to study more about the knowledge for this study issue? You need, or otherwise, your study will be very, very superficial. Okay? And so basically there are two sets of knowledge, subject area and research methodology. They are required.
But how can we separate the fact that in EC, maybe perhaps a research basis on something that we really want to enrich ourselves, or that we're going to take by our own so we can present it? How can we separate that? Because I think most of us, when we're going to do the GP, we're just going to supposedly choose something that just get out of the way with the GP.
Get out of the way with the GP. Well, some students are trying to get out of the GP. It seems to become a burden, so it's something you need to take. And some other students look at the GP very seriously, take it as a challenge for themselves. To enhance the horizon of his efforts and ability. Well, it all depends on you. But basically, if you want to conduct GP, it doesn't matter how you start to find out the research problem for yourself. Eventually, when you identify the research problem, you look at your own research problem, you will instantly find out two major issues out there. First, inside your research problem, there is a study issue, very clear over there. Second, there will be a research population embedded into your research problem, right? So if you look at the study issue, it doesn't matter what kind of study issue you are looking for, or you imagine out, or you just, oh, I want to do this, so I try to explore more. It doesn't matter. This kind of study issue can range, let's say, from the homosexuality to the marketing strategy, from the big nation strategy to the peaceful interactions between two countries, from the slaughter homicide inside Africa to Trump COVID-19, the efforts of the U.S. Counter actions against the COVID-19 and so on. There are so many different kind of study issues, right? It doesn't matter. Whenever you identify a specific study issue, then you need to study a lot of literature for that subject by yourself. Or otherwise, you cannot become an expert in this regard. For example, if you want to say, if you want to study some issue related to the U.S. presidential elections in this specific era of COVID-19, right? So when I say this statement, there are a lot of issues you need to understand. First, the electoral systems for the U.S. presidential election, you need to understand, right? And second, the COVID-19, everything related to COVID-19 happenings now in the United States, you need to understand. Third, I think, the candidates competing for the president of 2020, you need to understand their profiles, their strategy, and so on, right? You need to understand. Let me ask you one question. When you try to explore this issue, and you find out all the different issues out there, you need to educate yourself. Can you just simply log in my office or ask YMC, oh, could you tell me more about that? I'm sorry, no one can do that. No one can do that for you, right? Still, you need to review the literature by yourself. So that is something you need to do.
That looks more like a rocket science because for my first major, I did as well the same thing. But my research was based more in a criticism to a law that was passing at that time in my country. So here it kind of looks, for me it was just like I did a couple of interviews, just run a survey and just look background how was like the transition between the first law and the new law. And it was quite easy, but when I see this whole structure, it looks really complicated.
My structure.
But I didn't have the type of class you're offering. Right?
Yeah, I know. Ironically, it's very interesting to find out, even in the graduate school, in Taiwan, graduate school students in the graduate school need to write a thesis, right? But ironically, many of the graduate schools do not provide any courses related to research methodology. I don't get it, because the knowledge for research methodology is very, very important. We cannot just ask our students, go to do something. You will feel fine and go to collect some data. You can do it by yourself and try to analyze that and to bring that to me and ready for, there are 20 pages, thank you very much, you graduate. Actually, a lot of schools do that. It's very strange. That is not research at all, right? It seems just something very similar to a Google search. Just like Google search. It's just lucky or just happen to find some information out the first few data list. You just take it and analyze it and report your finding. That's it. That is not research. Gradually you will understand the corresponding the relations between population and sample. There are many other considerations out there. Okay? That's why we need to spend so many hours to talk about research methodology. But after this semester, you still have the chances to learn qualitative research and quantitative research. So if you want to take 2 courses, then you have another 6 hours or 6 credit hours of training on qualitative and quantitative research. So that could be helpful for you to really master your skill for research methodology. Basically, 2 sets of knowledge are equally important. Your subject area knowledge and your knowledge for research methodology. Okay? Next. So it is very complicated. The complexity of formulating an idea into a problem which is researchable is very, 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 it demands a lot of effort in it. So it is complicated. Don't be so discouraged for this, because you can do that. And you can just simply look at the senior students and the students before you. When they enter the process of writing up, of conducting their graduation paper, they have been equally puzzled as you are now. And now, when they finish their graduation papers, they feel achieved, satisfied, and they found out that they can really do something quite different. Don't talk to yourself, hey, I'm only a college student. What do you expect of me? I'm sorry, we do expect a lot of you. This is true. Okay, don't say I'm only a college student. Okay, why don't you just say, hey, I'm only a baby, what do you look at me? Why don't you say that? One day you are going to grow up, right? And college education is to help you to grow up as an independent person, independent individual, and a valuable individual. You want to become a leader, but not a follower, right? That is our purpose. That's why we train you, and we hope you can get that. Okay, so why it is important for us to have a research problem? Well, very simple. It is the first and most important step of the research process. A research problem can decide all the following steps of your research efforts. Every single steps. A tiny word change in your research problem can change many different other steps follow the research problems. Really, you will gradually understand that. Okay? So it's just like if you identify the destinations. So for example, you want to go to during the weekend you want to go to canteen. Okay, you decide to go. So that is the direction, right? Your destination you want to go. So figure out. If you really decide to go there to go to canteen during the weekend, then all the efforts you prepare for the trip to canteen will be done according to your plan, right? You want to go to canteen and you are so determined to go there. And all the efforts you prepare the car, you summon up your friends, and you prepare the agendas you want to enjoy. And if you want to stay there overnight, then you will book the hotel and so on, right? Imagine this. All efforts will help you to go to canteen, but not stay in the school. Is that right? So research problem is something like that. It guides all your efforts. For example, you decide to go to canteen, but not only go there, you must have some agendas or some funds to have, right? Maybe you would like to have scuba diving, so you will contact a lot of people, right? Try to rent some gears and lower prices with a great extent of safety and so on, right? And you may not want to go there alone, so you will ask your buddies, okay, if you are a boy, we have a group of girls go there too? That'll be fun, right? So imagine this, all your efforts about the trip to Kending, if you really have a research problem to go there, it's a destination. So all your efforts is about that. In our research, your Kending is your research problem. Very simple. You will not do something like, okay, maybe, before we go to Kending, okay, let's just see what happens. We will be there. Don't worry, we will be there. You don't prepare anything, and you will be there. I assure you, you will not be there, right? You will not be there because you did not do anything. Okay. So basically, once you identify a destination, you will figure out what is the shortcut that will be very clear and economic. You don't want to spend too much money over there to go to Kending, right? So imagine this, Friday night, a group of you along with your friends, you just drive there or take the bus there or walk there. There are a lot of different considerations based on your data collection, your data analysis, all the efforts related to that. So basically, when we talk about research problem, this is just like the foundation of the building. You must be something there for you to try to achieve, try to pursue. It is something there, okay? So you need to go. And the forms of research problem can be very simple to very complex. Very simple, what do we need to eat for lunch? Oh, very complicated. Very complicated. That is, for example, what is the impact of Donald Trump's infected to COVID-19 to the result of the US presidential elections? Maybe very complicated, right? Oh, another very simple one. If I skip 3 hours of Daniel's class, what will be the consequence of that? Maybe, very simple, right? You check out the syllabus, you will find out what will be the consequence about that. I will not kick you, of course, that is forbidden. Physical punishment is not allowed in this civilized campus, right? But there is some consequence out there. Maybe to some very complicated issue. That is, what is the real effects of learning the research methodologies to my life, onto my life? Very complicated, right? So you may think about something very simple, something is very complicated. But one thing important is that if you really want to treat this question as a research problem, one consideration is very important. That is doability. Is that doable by you? Really, you have to think about the issue. You need to do it, right? So when you talk about doability, it refers to how much money you have, how much time you can spend, what is the level of your skill onto this one, and what kind of subject area knowledge you have so far. Are you really capable of knowing all the details, all the principles, all the operations onto this research area, study area? Do you have the necessary skills for data collection, necessary techniques for data analysis, and so on? Okay, you have to ask yourself. So once you are so sure about all the necessities, then the research problem, the question will become a doable research problem for you. Okay? And let's continue. The way you formulate a problem will determine a lot of things. Just as I say, type of study design, and type of sampling strategy, research instrument, type of analysis, and so on. Just like you, if you want to go to Kending, right? There are many ways of going. There are many different kind of purposes for you to go to Kending. We, older generation, when we go to Kending, we don't go to beach. It's not attractive at all. Because, yeah, we will walk on the beach, but we do not go on scuba diving. We will not ride the motorbike on the sea. We don't do that because we believe that it will be some kind of dangerous to handle this kind of risk, right? So what will we do? if we decide to continue, our generation, at least my family, will try to find out a hotel, Caesar's hotel resort, and stay there for one night, enjoy the meals and walking on the street, slow motion enjoyment. But how about you? If you do this, you feel bored, right? You will have some excitement, bicycle riding, rushing, rush out, shoo, shoo, hitting, bumping. That's the life. So we have different needs. We have a different kind. So look at this. In terms of research, yes, indeed. Once you identify your research problem, that will guide all the efforts you try to do it. Okay? So be careful for formulating a research problem. And let's look at, now is a good time to tell you what would be the sources that can help you to identify the research problem. Basically, there are 4 P's. 4 P's: people, problems, programs, phenomena. What kind of people you are working with? If you look at the people side, for example, in Wenzhou alone, in the department alone, do you know how many foreign students are there inside the Department of International Affairs? Any idea?
Maybe 40.
40 students. It's very clear. 1/5 of the students here in the department are foreigners, right? So if we look at this group of people, then you start to think, what kind of programs that we need to offer to this group of people, and in the meantime can also benefit the native Taiwanese students here. Is that right? So when we look at the group of the people, we have to think. This is quite a different profile compared to other departments. And if we look at the problem side, what kind of problems as a student you might have? Look at yourself as a Taiwanese. You 3 years ago, 2 years ago, you chose to come into the department, right? And you came into the department, so suddenly you were bombarded by a lot of English taught lessons only. My goodness, you try to hide. You try to run away, right? So this kind of adaptation is so difficult for some students. Indeed. So this is the problem. No student left behind. Well, our motto, no student left behind. So we try every possible means to help out the problems of those students who have the difficulties to stay in the English taught classroom, right? Problems. So in this regard, what kind of programs we can have? Of course, we would like to have some program. But if you look at the programs angle side, let's say there are some programs from the government. The government is trying to use, for example, the production of this mask, face mask, right? We have a 国家队在那边. It seems a very grand idea, right? So this program is the program of production for the face mask sufficient to help people in Taiwan to use, to consume, and so on. Program side. And now how about phenomenon? Phenomenon, COVID-19 is a very important issue for us to observe, right? So have you identified any foreign tourists now on the street in Taiwan? No, because tourism has been in a dead water already. No one travels. No one travels across the borders at all, right? So what would be the impact to the tourism at large? For the aviation industry, airline industry, and for the producers of those airplanes, manufacturers of those planes. So you can think a lot of issues, okay? And these are the 4 P's you can use. And this one, when we conduct a research, when we do a research, there are always 2 issues combined together. One is the subject area, the study issue. The other one is the study population. So whenever you have a graduation paper topic, you can look at your own topic. You will be happy to find out two issues. One, there must be a study issue there. Second, there must be a explicitly or impliedly a study population there. You should be able to identify these two issues, study issue and the study population. Okay? Now, any question? And what is the purpose of study issue in terms of literature review? It can help us to identify the theoretical framework, right? And what is the purpose of the function of the study population in terms of literature review? It can help us to narrow down our theoretical framework to a conceptual framework that can be applied to the study population we want to study. Okay? So these are the sources of research problem for us. Any question? Okay, now I'll give you 3 minutes to reflect all the lectures so far by yourself. If you have any question, please just ask. Yeah.
So you said that there always must be a problem whenever you're doing the study of the population or the subject to the area, right? But what about if you don't want to find a problem, you just want to analyze? That would be still considered a research or not?
Let me ask you first. When you try to analyze, it is some problem for you, right? It is still defined as a research problem. Of course, it is not in a question statement. It is a statement, right? But still something you want to explore. So broadly define anything, any issue you want to explore. Not necessarily in a question format. That is something. For example, if you want to understand, if you try to understand how people think about me in this classroom, it's a statement, right? But basically, it is something you want to explore. It is a research problem.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because right now that I'm just looking at your form, I kind of think about how many mistakes I made on my first research. On my, like I wasn't finding a problem. There was not a problem. The only problem I think that people were not like used to the new law or something like that. And I just want to see how do they think about what's their reaction. There wasn't a problem.
Students in Taiwan, they used to do a lot of project in high school, something like yours. Just do something like research, but they are not researchers. right? So you may try to set aside your previous experience. Of course, you can compare, and this is the academic training for real research.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that was not in high school.
I know, but what I say is in high
Just
school.
feel ashamed.
No, it's okay, but it's okay. It's okay. But I'm sure you will be happy to know that there are so many things about research methodologies out there. So many other considerations. Not only just I have something, I get in field, write something, interview this, interview that, that's it. No, it's far beyond that. Okay, let's come back here. So now let's move to the considerations in selecting a research problem. Research problems, as we say, is just like a destination that can influence all our efforts for our preparations. And research design, data collection methods, and the way for us to analyze the data will all depend on the way we describe our research problem, right? And so when you consider to select a research problems, there are several issues out there. The first one is very important, and I believe that this is the most important one. That is, you must have some sort of interest on it. Don't find something that is very far away from your life experience. That would be very strange, right? So in previous years, all the student graduates from this department, they had a graduation paper, right? And the topics for the graduation papers varied greatly. One student conducted a study about there is a Wang Chuan Ji. There is a festival for burning out the boat in Donggang area, right? And the organizer of that Wang Chuan Ji is related to 7 different temples. I never knew about that before. And the student did a research about how they organized the event. And so it's amazing to know. And another one student did a job about cosplay. She tried to investigate the very secret interactions pattern of the cosplay community. I'm not a cosplayer at all, right? But when I read this kind of article, this kind of research, it's kind of interesting. And have you ever heard about hip hop? Yes, you did, but that is something very far away from me, right? But actually, one of my students did a research about hip hop culture in the college community here in Taiwan. And she managed to identify, wow, there are so many college club here in Taiwan, a total of about 100, scattered around the entire different university. And they are there, they put a lot of effort on there. So you can imagine this, you have different interests, you have different life story, life experience, right? So basically, you have to ask yourself, are you really interested in exploring this kind of issue? If this is yes, good. If not, please don't. Or you will feel very, very miserable. Okay? The other one is magnitude. Magnitude refers to the importance and also the efforts, the magnitude of your efforts. Well, how many things you need to do? How important it is, you have to ask yourself, right? So basically, identifying the contributions of your study is very important. These are important. And the third issue is the measurement of concepts. Later, I will tell you how to operationalize the concept. Let's try to differentiate the difference between concept and the variable for now. What is a concept? Basically, when we talk about a concept, it's a mental image in your mind. Any kind of image in your mind. Let's say, beautiful. Do you have an image in your mind? Yes, you have. Ugly. When I say tall, short. When I say difficult. When I say easy. When I say studying hard. Whenever I pop out a term here, you have some idea in your mind, right? These are all called as concepts. But one thing we have to make sure, concepts are not very measurable. I cannot measure beautiful. When I say concept, when I say beautiful, let me ask you one idea. When I say beautiful, what kind of mental image about for you to have the idea about beautiful? Yeah, everyone has different idea about beautiful, right? So in this regard, because it is not universally agreed upon criteria out there, so it is not measurable. When I say ugly, it is not measurable. When I say tall, when I say short, we do not agree upon the definition of tall, short, beautiful, ugly, handsome, diligent. So they are not measurable. So in research, do we need to collect data? Yes, of course. We need to collect data, right? So if I want to measure your level of smartness, when I say smart, is smart a concept? Yes, it is a concept. When we talk about smart, it is a concept. Let me tell you a story. It's kind of interesting. When I was in the state in 1988, and I passed by an institution for disabled kids, and they were trained to eat apple, right? It's very difficult for those disabled kids to eat apple properly. So the teacher would teach over again and again and say, oh, come on, eat, put over here and eat. And when they eat correctly in the right position, the teacher will say, bravo, how smart you are. Smart, okay? Apparently, this kind of definition, this kind of concept for smart will be quite different from yours, right? So how do you think about smart? Well, everyone has different idea, different definitions. Okay, however, can we really study how smart you are in this classroom? Can we do that? Now I want to study how smart you are in this classroom. Although we do not have the universal agreement on the definition for smart, the concept, right? But fortunately for us, we can operationalize the concept of smart into the variables so that we can go to collect data. Okay, smart. Let's try to use the smart as the idea for you to distinguish the difference between concept and the variables. Now, okay, it's not so clever. Anyway, okay, let's see this one. My research problem here. Now, I want to know how smart are my students in this classroom, right? So basically, my study issue is the smart. And the study population is so here is the smart, right? It's a concept. And my study population is my students here. Okay, so now because our mental image about smart differ from people to people, right? So it would be very difficult for us to understand, to have a universally agreed upon definition for smart, so the concept. So basically, can we just go there to collect data for smart? No, because concept is not measurable. So we need to operationalize the concept. Operationalize. This is the concept. Okay, so we go to review the literature. Basically, we try to operationalize it, the concept. We have several steps, 2 steps indeed. The second step is try to find out the indicator. Indicators. And eventually we have variables. Variable is for us to collect data. Okay, now, now you have idea, right? Now, concept. We are talking about concept smart. But we know we are not able to collect data for smart because smart is a concept. So what do we do if I really want to understand, want to investigate how smart you are in this classroom, right? So I go to review a lot of literature and I find out most of the scholars agreed upon when we try to measure, understand how smart a person is, we can observe from 3 different perspectives, 3 major indicators. One is their math ability. The other one is their verbal ability, how they use the words, how they compose, how they communicate in language. And the third one is their reasoning ability. Okay? Reasoning ability. So basically, let's see this one. It is very straightforward. It is very difficult for us to collect data about concept smart, right? But we are still trying to investigate how smart you are in this classroom. So we need to operationalize the concept of smart into some variables we can go there to collect data. So I spend a lot of time to review literature and I conclude and I summarize that most of the scholars find out that they have a general discovery. That is, when people want to identify how smart a person is, they always look at 3 different angles. One is the math. The other one is verbal ability. The third one is the reasoning ability, right? So these 3 sets of ability are the so-called indicators. The 3 indicators altogether can help us to understand the concept of smart. Is that right? So now we focus on the 3 indicators. And we continue to review literature, asking ourselves one question. I will use another 5 minutes, and then we can have a long delay our break. And we continue to ask another set of questions. If we want to understand the math ability of an individual, what kind of contents we need to provide? What kind of variable items we need to put here so we can understand their math ability? So let me ask you, if you want to measure a person's math ability, what kind of question you are going to ask? I think addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division. Some verbal expression that can be transformed to a daily life mathematical calculation. Must be something like that, right? Which means that the person does not need to go to advanced math program, then he would understand. You cannot ask them calculus, trigonometry, because this needs higher education, right? Advanced training. So basically we need to provide addition, subtraction. Let's go here. you need to put a lot of content for this one. Question about addition, question about subtraction, question about multiplication and division, and some statements related to mathematical questions, right? Okay. So here, you know, if you want to identify a person's ability, math ability, you need to focus on their ability for addition, for subtraction, for multiplication, and for division, and so on, right? So basically, now you will be able to create items of questions that you can put on the paper to test you. So I put 10 questions here for math, addition, 10 others for subtraction, and 10 others. So you will see that let's say I managed to create 100 of items, individual questions, so that I can use to test your general understanding of your math ability. Is that right? So I have 100. In the 100 questions, I do not have anything related to calculus, trigonometry, or algorithm. There's a high-end advanced mathematics, right? No, I don't. I only provide this. So now look here. I have 100 questions for math. Let's say with the same reasoning, I have 100 questions for verbal. I have 1 question for reasoning. Let's look at the question themselves. We ask one question, one very important issue. That's, can these questions be answered? Yes, of course, right? So this question by themselves is a variable, something that you can use to measure for measurement. So you will take a IQ test. Have you ever taken any IQ test? IQ test always consists hundreds of questions, right? So here, this will become a form that we call IQ test. So basically, we have 3 sets of questions. Each set of questions refers to a major indicator. So this set of questions refers to mathematical ability. This refers to verbal ability. This refers to reasoning ability. So basically, I am trying to find out how smart you are, but I do not go directly to measure your smartness. Instead, I operationalize the process through indicators, trying to find out the major components that can help us to understand the wholeness of smart. Once we identify the major indicators here, then we can continue to explore the necessary contents that can help us to understand the wholeness of each indicator. So we list the questions here. These questions is capable of measurement, right? So what is a variable? Variable and a concept, they have shared the same characteristic. That is, they all belong to your mental image, but variable is capable of measurement, can use to measure your. So you go there to answer, right? Give your answer. Your answer is some sort of measurement, 可以测量的. So altogether, you take your IQ test. So that's why then let's see this one. Let's assume that everyone I create the research instrument, this set of instrument, and I dispatch questions to you, right? Still, my purpose is to identify how smart you are. And now I use a standardized form of IQ test to test you. And eventually come out, let's say, after you take the IQ test, I found out that the average score, the IQ score of this classroom, 41 students come out, the average score is 120. This is my finding, 120. But as I said last time, is it enough to present the findings only? No, this is not the end of the story. Why? Because my research problem is to identify the smartness of this classroom, right? My students' smartness. So I have to explain the meaning of the finding 120. What does that mean? What does that mean? Right? So in this way, I have to compare 120 to some decision level to explain what does that mean. And I go to review another set of literature. I find out that the average score for the people in the whole wide world is only 95. It's 95. And you're 120, but this is not yet done. Because I need to understand what is the standard deviation for the average score of 95. If the standard deviation is 10, let's say if the standard deviation is 10, wow, 95, 10, and what is the meaning for 120? You stand out a 2.5 standard deviation away from the average score. Of course, you need to learn some statistical knowledge so that you can understand the meaning of 2.5 standard deviation away from the average score. Well, it is very simple. If you are away from the 2 standard deviation positivism, you are on the 97% are above all other people. But how about 2.5? It's almost 99% above all other people. So what is the meaning of the 120? That is, in every 100 people, you are on the top 99. This is the meaning. So how smart you are. Basically, I'm not really collect data related smart. I'm collect data from these individual questions, right? And find out your IQ score 120. And I compare. So I know you are extremely smart. So my answer to how smart you are is that you are very smart, because your smart level is about 99% of the population in the whole wide world. Okay, I will leave the screen here and give you time to break. 10 minutes later, let's resume our class in 20 past 11. In the meantime, you can take a picture, enjoy, and reflect about what I have talked about. Okay? Take your time.
Do you think this is okay? Because he said refresh. What the fuck?
But he said you cannot write it.
Yeah.
He said he said it in the message.
Really? What? Definitely have to write it.
Yeah.
And there is a bunch of different the words are not the same. You're just copying it. Right.
Which you did as well.
Yeah, but at least I have the same font. Yeah.
Is that the thing that you can be so
Wait, I need to read again.
The
Yeah.
message. Go read the message.
Wait, but I.
Yeah, I think it's when I said this isn't formal. I imagine already saying this. Yeah, but
Why you
like,
come up with so many terms?
yeah, I'm thinking about.
Because you know one term needs to be 3 pages.
I'm afraid that the thing is not gonna be enough. And no, and exactly you need this for your test. So I'm afraid that, like for instance, I don't even know what's approximate, but so I might as well look for terms that
Yeah, but like your terms for policy rules is like only.
yeah, but because this is what I originally did when I was on break. And now I'm adding the bunch of articles.
Wait, he didn't ask us to type. Wait, he didn't ask us to type. He said he's write it down on the side.
No, he said you cannot use the right.
No, he said you cannot use the writing. The article from the textbook. See?
把课本停下来，选点划线写习的找作业评分。
那个课本啊。
Yeah, but
I feel
like
like
this means like you cannot write like underlining right
no, but
Yeah, how can you even write in the book if you actually don't have the
but I thought the point is you cannot use the textbook as your text.
Yeah.
But I'm not using my textbook, I copy and paste. So I feel like the point is not circle and you're all under and the previous the model whom on the first class those
Yeah.
were also underlined.
you already finished.
Number 3.
You could have continued.
No, it's too difficult to leave comments on the function. I mean, one
Yes.
为什么在我上课的时候都喜欢我跑出去呢？
我刚去运动室去我刚去运动室
啊，
对，
你要渐渐那个秉存跟坏习惯。我发现有一种习惯，不是上厕所拿东西、运东西，反正就是找个理由跑出来。Every time， 你很少说上课乖乖哦，上课下课不出现这种。
可是我在的时候我会注意。
哦 no， 可是刚刚不在的时候讲的很重要的东西，你忘掉了。
我会去 review 课。
哦，是这样吗？
是那个刚刚是就是第二堂，
第二堂来了，
然后刚好可以看到，
结果呢？
然后我们可以不见。好。
Ready? Okay, 2 more minutes and then we'll resume our lecture. Okay. 左右邻居把他叫起来，让他睡。Okay, let's continue. So basically, this very simple chart is to help you to understand the difference between concept and the variables. Because we highlight on the third point, measurement of the concepts. When we talk about concept, it is not measurable. However, we can do this by the process of operationalization. In Chinese, it is called as 操作型定义化. 操作型定义化, which means make it to give them some definition so that you can use the variable to measure for measurement. Okay, and the other one, number 4, is level of expertise. What kind of expertise you have? Oops. What kind of expertise you have? So level of expertise is very important too, right? Recently, I'm very interested in identifying how to run a Windows 10 in the Android phone, right? And actually, through my experiments, I destroyed one of my cell phone already. It's dead, completely dead out there. So this is my first tryout. I will find out another old phone to test it again to see whether it's so interesting. So I continue to experiment a lot of different issues. You know, the beauty of doing research is that you know the ways to tackle the problems. You know the logical, the reasons, the ideas, how to collect data, how to analyze the data. So you will repeat, just like a trial and errors process. You do this, and you commit error, you find out there's something wrong, and then just repeat again. It's so fun. So really, I will continue. If you want to visit my dead phone, you're welcome. It's dead, completely. I don't know why, but I cannot turn it on at all. Just died for good. That's interesting. So apparently, my level of expertise on doing this is quite limited. I admit that. It's quite limited. I learned that from Google, from YouTube, from a lot of information, but still, it died. So you need a certain level of expertise, it is true. And relevance. Relevance related to anything that you feel related. Your career, the group of people you try to serve better. If you work for the company, is this research related to the operation of your company? Relevance must be related to the stakeholders. There are a lot of people out there looking at you, right? So relevance is another issue. The last one, the next one is availability of data. Must be a set of data out there. Don't undermine the importance of this one. No data, no analysis, no research. It's very important. You need to have data. Some data, for example, our students always encounter some problems of data collection. For example, you try to interview, and in your proposal, you indicate you promised to your advisor that I would have collected, let's say, 15 interviewees. But throughout your efforts for contact, you find out none of the 15 agreed to take your interviews. No data at all, no data analysis, no GP, no graduation. Again, another year, see you again. Nice to see you. So look here, data is very important. So when you write up your data, you have to make sure that the availability of data is really there. Don't just simply say that I would have 15 interviewees. You draw a picture over there, 15, but turns out only 1 or 2. Then your data is so limited, then your analysis will be nullified. And the last consideration is ethical issues. We are broadly defined, we are social scientists. We are dealing with human beings most of the time, right? So ethical consideration is always very important. Don't harm people. Don't harm people is the very important consideration for you to keep. Never harm people. That is, you cannot harm people physically or psychologically. Even you try to manipulate all the scenario. Never harm people. This is toward another person. And there's another ethical consideration is about your academic integrity, yourself. Never plagiarize. Okay? Again, never plagiarize. If you plagiarize, then you will be caught. Very, very easy, okay? If you are taking some other people's idea without proper citations, without proper references, then you plagiarize their ideas. Once you plagiarize, then your advisor will know, really, because there are so many softwares available in the market, so convenient. Windsor has provided teachers several packages of anti-plagiarism software. So don't do that. If you do, I will catch you. And you will fail. Really, if I catch you, you will fail. Because, our system, our evaluation system is working in this way. Once you defend your graduation paper in the reviewing panel, right? So 2 professors will review your paper. Your advisor will give you a credit if you give you a score 2. So 3 advisors will sit together along with other professors to look at your paper. If any professor says that, I'm sorry, I found out there is a plagiarism in this student's graduation paper, no professor, even your advisor, would defend for you. No, not at all, because it happened before. It happened. If you imagine this, all the faculty members, 8, will sit together to look at your paper. And if any professor find out and raise your point out to a paper that I found out the sections of the paper have how many percentage of the papers are plagiarism, then none of the professor will say anything for you, because this is automatically to define as a value. So please, never plagiarize. It's very important. If you plagiarize, you may be lucky enough to just escape for this time. Wow, congratulations for that. But gradually, along with the advancement of the technology, you will find out it will become very difficult, more difficult for you to plagiarize, because we will catch you. So be careful for this, okay? Plagiarism is very important and serious crime in our academic work. So this is very important ethical issues for you to consider, okay? Okay, let's say steps in formulation of a research problem. Basically, we have the 7 steps here. But it would be easier for us to go just here. Or you can check out the chart from your readings now. There's a larger chart over there, so that will be easier for you to understand. Okay. This is a very simple and mechanical process for you to identify a research problem. So this is one way. Of course, along with your skills, your development of your skill, you may not need to follow this process. But for the beginners, this will be very helpful. Okay, so in general, there are 7 steps for you to come out a research problem. And we know that research problem can come out from your research, your observation about 4 P's, right? People, programs, problems, and phenomena. Okay, now let's go through the different steps and try to guide you to think how to formulate your own research problem. Let's go from the step number 1, identify. Basically, everyone has different interests, different expertise, right? So suppose that you are very interested in the direction of alcoholism. Maybe you are the victims of alcoholic parents, right? Maybe. So when you grow up, you try to understand something about alcoholism. Why people like to drink, right? So this is general direction. So basically, you have to identify a general direction you like to study. Alcoholism. Is that right? So throughout your academic efforts, you go to take courses related to alcoholism. You try to read some literature about alcoholism, right? So everyone has a different broad direction, but this direction is too broad. So you need to study a little bit about the knowledge for alcoholism. So you dissect. Second step is to dissect the broad knowledge, broad field of alcoholism into some subfield. For example, throughout your literature review, you study a lot of literature, right? Now you know when people talk about alcoholism, some can discuss the profile of alcoholics. What kind of people are more likely to become an alcoholic, right? And there are some other issues, the cause. Why people like to become an alcoholic, the causes for alcoholism. So this is another subfield. And your literature will review, sometimes you will study the process of becoming an alcoholic. The process of becoming an alcoholic. For example, maybe you lost your girlfriend. And the first day you drank one pint of beer. The next day another pint. The third day 2 pints. And it gradually increased to 1,000 beers every day. And 2,000. And that's the whole process. I don't know, I'm not an expert in this field, but there must be some literature related to the process of becoming an alcoholic, right? So this is another subfield. Maybe there's another one. The effects of alcoholism on the family. Well, family life is there, right? If you drink a lot, your parents drink a lot, then the kids suffer. There's another issue. Maybe it's a community attitude toward alcoholism. Maybe the effectiveness of a treatment model, etc., etc. So imagine this. You point out the general direction alcoholism, then you go into a library to study more literature about alcoholism. You will gradually understand that under the big umbrella of alcoholism, there are many subfields out there. Like the profile of alcoholics, like the causes of alcoholism, like the process of becoming an alcoholic, like the effects of alcoholism on family and so on, right? So you dissect the subfields under the big umbrella of alcoholism. Now, You have to select number 3. Select one of the subfields you like to explore more. You feel more interested in. In this case, we have a selection. We select the effect of alcoholism on the family. Maybe because you are the victims of the alcoholic family, right? So you like to study more about this. Or maybe you are a social worker and your responsibility is to help out those alcoholic families to make their ways and emerge into the normal society. Maybe, right? So it must be related, relevance. We talk about relevance. Relevance to your experience. Maybe it's relevant to your job and so on, your career. So now you choose effects of alcoholism on the family. Okay, the next one is to raise questions. Now I want to guide you. Let's look at here, effects of alcoholism on the family. Please tell me, what is the study issue here? We say that in every set of research problem or research issue, right, we must be able to identify 2 major issues. 1, study issue. 2, study population. Could you tell me what is the study issue here? Anyone? It's not complicated, it's just written there. Very simple.
Effects.
Hmm?
Effects.
Not the effects. Effects of many different things, right? What is the... Not family is the target, is the study population. Okay, basically the study issue is effects of alcoholism on the family. This is the study issue. Is that right? Okay, because we want to understand what are the effects of alcoholism on the family. So this is the study issue. What is the study population? The family, of course, must be, right? Or otherwise it will be restrained, right? You cannot identify the effects of alcoholism on the family, and you focus your attention to collect the impact on dogs, the stray dogs, right? Because the drunk person may throw bottles at stray dogs, right? The impact. Okay, now, effects of alcoholism on the family. The key here is about alcoholism, effects of alcoholism on the family. Then we have to ask one question. Can we directly observe the concept of effects of alcoholism on the family? Difficult, right? Very difficult because it is a concept. It cannot be measured. So the next one, we need to raise questions. So how can you raise questions? We have to look at the concept. This is the general concept, although it includes a study issue and implies the study population, right? But let's look at the study issue. Effects of alcoholism on the family. If we want to identify the effects of alcoholism on the family, what can we try to investigate? Well, let's go to review a lot of literature. Review, so literature review, right? So let me change it. So now we are going to have a it's bigger and bigger. Okay, now now we try to dissect, we try to identify what is the concept of effects of alcoholism on the family. What are the major indicators that can help us to understand the concept of the effects of alcoholism on the family? So now our effort, we need to do some literature review. And we found out that we synthesize, compare, and summarize scholars different arguments, pros and cons, and they found out that when they talk about the impacts of alcoholism on the family, they focus on the three major indicators. One is on their marital status. Marital status. Second one is on their children's life. This kind of impact of alcoholism on the third indicator is their family finance. Is that right? Okay, let's look here. So starting from here, effects of alcoholism on the family, then you ask yourself, if I want to identify the impact, the effects of alcoholism on the family, what can I observe? What are the major indicators I need to observe? I have no idea, but I can review the literature, right? So I review the literature. After my effort of literature review, I found out that most of the scholars in this field, when they try to study the effects of alcoholism on the family, they always focus on three general directions. That is, they try to understand what is the effect of alcoholism on their marital status, marital relations, and what are the impacts on the various aspects of children's life. And the third one is their money. How much money they have suffered for because of alcoholism, right? So basically, we have three major indicators all together can be observed to help us to understand the whole effect of alcoholism on the family. So basically, we have to ask three questions. These are the three questions we list here. One is related to marital relations. The other one is related to children's life. The third must be related to family's finance. Is that right? So our questions, we raise questions. We ask ourselves, if we want to explore, investigate the effects of alcoholism on the family, what do we need to investigate? Oh, there are three sets of questions we might need to ask. This one, the first one, what impact has alcoholism on marital relations? Number one, right? Number two, what does it affect on the various aspects of children's life? And the third, what are the effects on the family's finances? So in all, these are the three major indicators we need to observe, right? So basically, we just put the three indicators in the three different questions. Is that right? So let's try to rationalize this. Which means if we have a complete understanding about the answers of the three questions, then we should be able to have quite a good picture about the effects of alcoholism on the family. Is that right? So basically, let's look at this. In any research, we need to collect data. So like if we have a data, then we can analyze the data, right? But for this, it will be very difficult for us to collect data. Why? Because it's a concept. So with the help of indicators, in this case, we have three indicators based on literature review. It's very important. You do not come out of the indicators just by your imagination or just because Daniel says so. No, I'm not an expert on anything. So you have to review the literature related to the study issue. The study issue here is this, right? So you have to review literature. So after your careful literature review, you know that there are three general indicators can be put together to comprehensively help us to understand the answers for the effect of alcoholism on family, the concept. So we put the three indicators into the three different research question. 1, 2, and 3, right? So the presumption here is very simple. If we know the answers for this, then we could have a clear picture about this. Is that right? Very straightforward, simple, right? Okay, these questions in our research, we call it is a research questions. Research questions altogether can be identified, can help us to explore, to collect data, and can help us to analyze data, to answer the 3 different research questions. And the composition of the research questions must be based upon the indicators we have identified from the research purpose. This is the research topic you want to explore, right? Okay, any question? So far, 3 minutes for you, and to yourself. Okay, so look here, there is a very strong correlation between the step 3 and step 4, right? Step 3 represents the concept of the study issue. And step 4 represents the comprehensive set of indicators that, if we put them together, can represent the wholeness of the concept, say in step 3, right? So look here, now we select, we raise questions. Basically, you are preparing the objectives that we need to go forward for step number 5. Number 5, we have to formulate a formal objectives that we want to present to our readers. You have to make an announcement to tell your readers, hey, what I'm going to do, right? So when you say this, when you do this, basically you are kind of preparation. You are asking yourself, what kind of questions I need to put? What kind of issue I need to select, right? So, but that is not enough, because you have to write on the paper to inform your readers what is my objectives, right? So basically, step 3 and step 4 can help you to formulate such objectives. Step 3 can help you to state your research purpose, like this one. Did you see these two are very similar, right? So in step 5, your research purpose is to, for example, you write out this, to find out the effects of alcoholism on the family. You put an verb here, and put a verb in front of this. And also, if you want to continue to have a complete statement, then you put a subject here, then you have a research purpose. For example, in this research, I aim to find out the effectiveness of alcoholism on the family. Or you can describe in another way if you are conducting a quantitative research. The purpose of the study is to find out the effects of alcoholism on family. Very straightforward and simple, right? And this will be the complete statement of your research purpose. But research purpose alone is not enough, because you know you need to have some sort of sub-objectives to help you, to guide you to collect necessary data. At least you need to know what kind of specific issue you have to focus on, right? So step 4 is helping out. In step 4, we raise 3 questions to ask ourselves. What are the impacts of alcoholism on marital relationship, children's life, and money and family finance, right? But you can state it out in a sub-objective like this. Number 1, to ascertain the impact of alcoholism on marital relations. Number 2, to determine the ways in which alcoholism affects the different aspects of children's life, and so on and so on. Right? Do you see? Over here, they are statements. So they belong to a specific objectives, which means your effort of data collection will be guided by the 3 sub-objectives, specific objectives. You collect data to answer the 3 objectives. Then once you have the complete answers for the 3 objectives, then you will have the idea, understanding about the meaning of your main research purpose. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have done a very good job for searching a research purpose for yourself, research problem. But that does not end here, because you have to do some double check. First, you have to make sure, and then double check. Make sure about what? Make sure a lot of issue. That is, basically, these objectives, how much work you need to do. You don't want to find a job, find a GP like you need to take it for 3 years, too long. You don't want to find a GP topic like you can do it in 1 day, too short. Is that right? Let me give you an idea about what is the 1-day job, maybe 1-hour job. That is, you may think this research question is so huge. That is, what is the correlation between Taiwan's GMP and mainland China's GMP? That is a 1-hour job, because you need only to retrieve 2 sets of data with a very simple regression line, and you have a job. You have the answer, right? Although it seems so huge, but it needs only 1 day. So you have to make sure how many work you need to do, how much time available for you. It's very important. You have only 3 months for data collection, right? And you have only 1 year to complete your paper. And also how much money you have. It's very important. As the student, you are defined poor. you are defined poor. So you don't want to take too much money on this project, right? It takes money all the time. It takes a lot of money. So imagine this. And your technical expertise in this area, is that sufficient? You shake your hand now, but later maybe you are capable. Maybe, right, okay. Make sure. And once you make sure all of these necessary resources, then double check. Are you really interested in this study? Double check. Really? And you agree with the objectives. You say you want to do this. Do you agree with these objectives? Do you have adequate resources for you to do so? If you believe that if you want to complete the project, then you need to spend $20,000 out of your pocket. You ask, do you have this money? Maybe you have. Maybe you have. Maybe you think that is too wasteful, right? So you want to save some amount of money. And then you have the technical co-expect to undertake the study and so on. So make sure and double check. It's a final step for you to produce a research problem. So very simple, very short. This is a rather mechanical approach for you to follow. It is helpful for the beginners. Any question? If not, let's move to very last. I will come out here. Reminders. I will preview reading 4 and also quiz number 3. And there's a research portfolio number 2 for you. Find a friend. Your teammates, your friends, if you have friends, of course. And refine your research problem. Refine your research. In portfolio 1, you have a research problem, and I ask you to envision the possible literature, right? Envision possible contribution, possible theoretical framework, possible research methodology, possible contribution, possible meaning of your findings, and so on. So basically, you have one very great directions for your research problem. Of course, it is not solid, far away from the solid result, but still, it is a direction. Identify a direction of your interest. You can do that, right? So you want to talk to your friends and refine your research problem. It's a very good time for you to do so. Then explain in your portfolio number 2. Explain why does this research problem interest you? Why do you want to do this? How have you chosen it? You have a research problem, right? For example, if you want to do some cosplay, must be something there, right? And what would you operationalize the concept and the population of your research problem? How are you going to do it? You look at your own research problem. There must be a study issue and a study population, right? Then how are you going to operationalize them so that you can go to collect data? You can measure it. You can go back to the previous slide. You can take this. You can study this by yourself. This is a very good, very simple model for you to understand how you are going to operationalize the concept. Okay? So I ask you to study this by yourself. It's a very beginning step for you to review the literature by yourself. And also go to the readings to read it. Okay, so after you read the necessary literature, you should be able to answer this one. So next week, I will personally check your portfolio number 2. Okay, so just do it, finish all your assignments. Any questions so far? Okay, good. And then I will say bon voyage. See you next time. Ciao.